This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Monday, the 15th day of June in the year 2020. I'm Gordon Mosley. Here is what we're tracking tonight. The Karakum high-level team, which scrutinized the recount of votes from the Guyana elections, has determined that although the recount unearthed irregularities and some defects, it still showcased the will of the people. In a section of the report seen by News Source, the three-member team explained that they did not witness anything which will render the recount and by extension the casting of ballots on the 2nd of March so grievously deficient procedurally or technically or sufficiently deficient to have thwarted the will of the people and consequently preventing the election results and its declaration by GECOM from reflecting the will of the people. The team said they are unshakable in their belief that the people of Guyana expressed their will at the ballot box and therefore the recount results are acceptable. However, they noted that going forward there are issues that must be urgently addressed by the government and people of Guyana when it comes to the elections and the electoral process. It said many of the instances of irregularities that they witnessed can be explained by either the incompetence of some of the presiding officers at the polling stations and or the failure to give adequate training by GECOM to its staff on the varied possibilities which may have arisen at the level of individual stations. But the team maintained throughout their report that despite its failings and flaws, the national recount process is not an indictment of the 2020 elections, and the team categorically rejects the concerted public efforts to discredit the elections. According to the Karakum team, what is unmistakable is that a political audit of GECOM, both the Commission and its administrative arm, is urgently wanted. The team said it therefore behoves whichever political party emerges victorious from the elections to initiate an immediate political audit, as in a very real sense. It said GECOM betrayed its obligations to behave impartially and independently in the best interest of integrity-based processes, which did not favor any party or parties, whether in terms of operation or policy decisions. The Karakum team lambasted some unnamed commissioners who it said made imprudent remarks to some media houses, which added to the tense political environment in the country. The team also said it observed the antics of the political operatives from both within the Commission and from the political parties as they all attempted to harness the media and their political capital for their own narrow and selfish political purposes. The high-level team said the constant references to irregularities made by GECOM commissioners could only have a deleterious impact on the body that they are a part. The Karakum team left Guyana early this morning and the report was submitted to the Elections Commission. While the Karakum team has indicated that the results of the recount are acceptable and reasonably credible, the Chief Elections Officer in his report has determined that based on the issues and anomalies raised during the recount, it cannot be ascertained that the results have met the standard of fair and credible elections. More news coming up in a moment.
Parents and guardians, you are encouraged to tune in to the Guyana Learning Channel, Cable 29 or Channel 42 for daily educational and interactive learning sessions. The nursery program airs from 6 hours to 9 hours. Primary programs from 9 hours to 12 noon. We also air informative documentaries from 12 noon to 13 hours, and our secondary level programs are aired from 13 hours to 15 hours. Please continue to listen to our radio broadcasts. The interactive radio instruction for grades 1 to 3 daily on Voice of Guyana from 9 hours 30 to 10 hours for grade 1 pupils, from 10 hours 30 to 11 hours for grade 2s, and 13 hours to 13 hours 30 for grade 3 pupils. Please remember to tune in to benefit from these educational opportunities. A message from the Ministry of Education.
We all want to stay in touch, right? Now, even more than ever before. So to keep your connection strong, GTT is going 2 for 2. Combine GTT mobile and home internet services and we'll give you 2 gigs of free mobile data each month. With 2 GTT services, you're fully connected at home and on the go. Visit us online at gtt.co.gy/2for2 to learn more and start doing more with 2 for 2 from GTT. Stay safe, stay strong, Guyana. We're in this together.
GBTI is your Guyanese bank, a bank that understands every customer's unique needs, opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. At GBTI, we see you for you. Whether you're buying a new home or car, planning your next vacation or retirement, saving for your child's future, or whether you're ready to take that bold step of investing in your dream business idea, we are with you every step of the way. We hear your stories and watch you focus on your dreams as we share your aspirations. We are more than just banking. We are a family. We are part of your community. Our commitment extends way beyond the walls of our branches and is demonstrated every day in the opportunities we provide to our individual and business customers. The support, time, and commitment we give back to communities across Guyana to help improve the lives of our Guyanese families. Because we see Guyana through your eyes.
We can reduce the risk of contracting viruses by strengthening our immune system, and one way of doing this is by eating as healthily as possible to support optimal immune function. Micronutrients essential to fight infection include vitamins A, B, C, D, and E, and the minerals iron, selenium, and zinc. Here's what we need to know about the foods we can eat to get them. Vitamin A is found in fish, egg yolks, cheese, nuts, seeds, whole grains, and beans. Vitamin B9 folate is abundant in green leafy vegetables, beans, nuts, and seeds, and it's also added to a lot of the flour that we use in Guyana. Vitamin B12 is found in animal products, including eggs, meat, and dairy, and also in some fortified milk. Vitamin C and vitamin E helps to protect our body when we're fighting an infection. Good sources of vitamin C include oranges, lemons, limes, tomatoes, and cherries. In Guyana, one of our cherry has the amount of vitamin C needed for the entire day for a person. Vitamin E is found in nuts, green leafy vegetables, and vegetable oils. Although sun exposure allows the body to produce vitamin D, food sources including eggs, fish, and some milk and margarine brands may be fortified with vitamin D, meaning some extra has been added. Most people need just a few minutes outdoors most days to get enough of the vitamin D needed. And beyond diet, there are other measures you can take to stay as healthy as possible. No smoking, reduce the intake of alcohol or none at all, exercise every day, and sleep and rest well. And please remember to reduce your intake of sweetened and carbonated beverages and drink lots and lots of water.
Welcome back. Hours after the Karakum high-level team submitted its report on the vote recount, the Organization of American States, the OAS, called on the APNU-AFC administration to begin the process of what it called transition to allow the legitimate government to take its place. The statement by the OAS came as the Elections Commission, which is still to make a final declaration on the elections, was meeting to consider the report of the Karakum team, as well as the report of the Chief Elections Officer. The OAS said it welcomes the report from the Karakum team, but it raised concern over the report that was submitted on Saturday by the Chief Elections Officer. According to the OAS statement, the report submitted by the Chief Elections Officer Kit Lowenfield records multiple allegations of irregularities by a contesting party in each district, which were then used on a basis for determining the electoral process in each of the 10 districts was not credible. The group said there is little evidence in the CEO's report of efforts to investigate or otherwise address any of the alleged irregularities presented. The OAS said his contention that the entire election be set aside on that basis alone is astonishing. In his report on the recount, the Chief Elections Officer did not contend that the entire elections be set aside. He, however, stated that based on the irregularities, he could not ascertain that the elections were credible. The OAS in its statement said there is no reason not to support the results of the recount process, and it wholly supports the findings of the Karakum team. According to the OAS, based on the results from the recount, the People's Progressive Party has won the favor of the majority of the Guyanese people, and their will must be respected. The organization had an observer team for the elections and a smaller team in place for the recount. The vote recount process was initiated by President David Granger after concerns were raised about the count and the tabulation of Region 4 votes, which favored his party heavily. While the recount has revealed that the APNU-AFC still won Region 4, its total votes were less than what was revealed in the declared tabulation back in March. Well, the Commonwealth has welcomed the report of the Karakum Observer team. In a statement this afternoon, the group said that the Karakum Observer report is clear that the recount results are completely acceptable and that nothing that the Karakum Observers witness warrants a challenge to the inescapable conclusion that the recount results are acceptable and should constitute the basis of the declaration of the results of the elections. The group said President David Granger and the leader of the opposition demonstrated commendable leadership when they agreed to the recount and committed to respect and adhere to the recount results. They said this continued leadership and commitment is needed now more than ever, and the people of Guyana have been patient and deserve finality as determined by the recount results. Let's tell you now that President David Granger has rubbished claims that his coalition was involved in any election wrongdoing. The president's statement came one day after the Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield, in a report on the vote recount, indicated that based on the anomalies and other issues uncovered during the recount, the elections cannot be deemed as credible.
APNU-AFC, coalition of which I am the chairman, never colluded with anyone to interfere with the electoral process. We went into the elections like the PPP and the other minor parties, and we expected an outcome in our favor. We campaigned very hard. It is certainly the most impressive and impactful campaign that I've ever been involved in. And we were awaiting the results like anyone else.
The issues highlighted in the CEO's report on the recount range from votes being cast for dead persons and persons out of the country to missing documents in the ballot boxes, and the ballot boxes containing more votes than persons were listed to vote on that particular station. The People's Progressive Party has objected to the contents of the Lowenfield report, stating that he was not empowered to offer an opinion or conduct any investigation on the observations made during the recount. President Granger, however, is of the view that the Chief Elections Officer has not gone outside of his authority.
There's no indication that he was not authorized to do that. What may not be authorized is that the Commission cannot use that as the final report of the CEO. Once he provides the final report, well, then there are obligations on the part of the Commission for them to comply with that report. But that is not the final report of the CEO to the Commission.
So you accept his findings?
I accept that what I've read about what he wrote indicates that there has been widespread abuse, and this is what APNU-AFC has complained about publicly over the last 100 days.
President Granger said with Lowenfield's submission of the report on the recount, it has brought the process to an irreversible stage, and he is hoping that the process will continue along and the declaration is made. Still with that Karakum report, the Karakum high-level team has recommended an urgent audit and reform of the Guyana Elections Commission. In a copy of the report, the team said if GECOM is left in its present form, it would be a tragedy for the nation and people of Guyana. The Karakum team noted that the Guyana Elections Commission in its present form is a creature of the dominant political parties, and there is little interest on the part of the commissioners in ensuring that the elections and the electoral environment are conducive to the integrity-based elections, which will reflect the will of the people. The Elections Commission is made up of a chairman who is selected based on agreement of the president and the opposition leader, and 6 commissioners. 3 commissioners are nominated by the government, while the other 3 are nominated by the opposition. The Karakum team said it found that the commissioners are dominated by the ethos of positing their respective parties to political victory. The team wants an urgent political audit of the Elections Commission, including its successes and shortcomings. It said the net effect of GECOM's political nature is the fact that what ought to have been an essentially technical and administrative process of the recount was intimately linked and stymied by a process of negotiations, bargaining, and constant persistent renegotiations with the powerful private sector commission and the political parties with their incessant demands that often saw GECOM twisting and turning like a willow tree and not the oak tree it is required to be. The team spent over a month in Guyana observing and scrutinizing the vote recount process. They found that although the irregularities were uncovered during the recount, it is their view that the recount also represented the will of the people and is therefore acceptable. While the Guyana Elections Commission met today and started its deliberations on the reports of the Chief Elections Officer and the Karakum team on the recounted votes. The meeting ended this afternoon with no decision made on the declaration, but the commissioners expressed concern about some of the things contained in the report. The report of the Chief Elections Officer has received backlash from the People's Progressive Party Civic, which stated that he was not empowered to carry out any investigation on the issues raised during the recount and was not required to offer an opinion either. One of the small parties, a new and united Guyana, has also lashed out at the Lowenfield report, claiming that rogue elements within GECOM appear to be working with the APNU-AFC in an effort to annul the elections. The incumbent APNU-AFC has said that the report confirms many of the issues it raised during the recount, from votes being cast for dead persons to votes being cast for persons living abroad and documents missing from the ballot boxes. The coalition has said the issues raised by Lowenfield in his report should not be ignored.
I sought clarification on whether the Commission had in fact garnered evidence in relation to the deaths and the migration. And so the Commission, as the Secretariat, has now provided us with documentation to show that they had in fact gotten verification in relation to deaths and migration.
The incumbent APNU-AFC has said the report confirms many of the issues it raised during the recount. Turning now to education, students preparing for the NGSA and CXC examinations returned to their classrooms today under strict COVID-19 guidelines. In Georgetown, most schools were well prepared for the return of students, with sanitization points in place and students and their teachers having their temperature checked before entering the compound. Some schools were running late this morning with the completion of their hand washing areas, but by afternoon the work was completed. In the classrooms, no more than 15 students were being allowed in a class, and the tables and chairs were set 6 feet apart. Students were also presented with sanitization kits from the Ministry of Education. Education officials were spotted making checks at a number of schools in the city and in different parts of the country. The students will only have to attend classes 3 days for the week, and each of those sessions will be for no more than 4 hours. Additionally, they are required to be wearing their face masks before entering the school compound. Schools have also established sick bays for students who might become unwell, and nurses and doctors from the area of the schools are being encouraged to visit and offer advice to the students about safeguarding themselves against the coronavirus. The common entrance examinations will take place on the 1st and 2nd of July, while the CSEC examinations will begin on the 13th of July. Well, after being in isolation for over 3 weeks, a 105-year-old resident of the PAM's geriatric home has made a full recovery from the coronavirus. The elderly woman was among the group of residents diagnosed with the disease back in May. Following the positive test, the COVID-19 cases at the government-managed home for the elderly were moved to the institution's infirmary and the special ward. Doctors and nurses were posted at the home to support the healthcare workers who are based there. In a statement, the Ministry of Social Protection, which overlooks the management of the PAMs, said 3 other residents have also made full recoveries, but have not yet been reintegrated with other residents. The PAMS recorded its first case of the coronavirus on the 5th of May, when an elderly male resident passed away. The other cases were recorded 2 weeks later, and the second patient died. All of the cases at the PAMS have been residents. Tests have been continuously done on staff members and other residents, and those tests continue to be negative. Guyanese nationals stranded in Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago have found themselves still waiting for their repatriation home, despite clearance being granted for their return more than 3 weeks ago. Caribbean Airlines, which has been granted approval to operate the repatriation flights, indicated today that it was still awaiting an approved list of the persons to be repatriated. In a statement, Caribbean Airlines explained that the approval was granted for the flight to operate on the 11th of June. However, 2 days before the planned flight, the airline said it received information from the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority indicating that the necessary processes were not yet completed, and it was therefore unable to provide the approved list of travelers. The airline has indicated that once it receives the approved list, it will open bookings for the flights for the Guyanese nationals. It is currently doing similar repatriation flights for other Caribbean nationals. Guyanese nationals who want to return home at this time must complete a repatriation form from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs website and submit that form along with a PCR COVID-19 test that was completed recently. The test must be submitted 2 days before their intended travel. Across the Region is coming up next.
Wondering how you can access free learning materials for your children? Parents and guardians, please visit the Ministry of Education's website at www.education.gov.gy to access textbooks, past papers, and practice tests to keep your child engaged in continuous learning. When you have accessed the site, go to the Students tab, wait for a second, and choose the appropriate option. You now have access to the resources you need. You are encouraged to take advantage of this opportunity as we strive to provide the best education for the nation's children. A message from the Ministry of Education.
They've made a positive impact on the heavy-duty transportation industry in Guyana since they've arrived. Guyanese are amazed at their power, durability, efficiency, and superior handling capabilities. These are brand new trucks, manufactured in partnership with German, Italian, and French companies. They have a powerful reputation for operating under very adverse Guyanese conditions and come with full after-sales service and spare parts. They're the most sought-after trucks today, with over 500 units in Guyana, and they're available in over 100 countries, including South America and the Caribbean. Be smart. Buy brand new ST Howo trucks today. Call 608-4998 and arrange for an inspection at ST Truck Guyana Incorporated, Block B, Public Road, Covenant, East Bank, Demerara.
We are legions of men standing strong, but never too proud to stoop and help someone. We must send a clear signal to all. Do right. Walk in upright ways, knowing that's what being a man is all about, and ever aware that things will only get worse when good men do nothing. Stand strong. Be the one to live right.
Anyone who believes he or she was exposed to coronavirus COVID-19 must stay at home and not mix with other family members. This quarantine is to help stop the spread of the virus at home and in our communities. While at home for 14 days or 2 weeks, here are some valuable tips you must follow. First, get a separate room which family members will not be allowed to enter during those 14 days of quarantine. Ensure this room allows you to get lots of fresh air. Second, if you must meet family members, stay at least 1 meter or 3 feet away from them. Third, when it comes to personal hygiene, other members of the household should use a separate bathroom. If you must share a bathroom, ensure you always clean the taps, doorknobs, and all utensils with soap and running water. Fourth, limit the number of visitors to your home. Anyone in quarantine must not meet and greet any visitor. Fifth, practice frequent hand washing with soap and running water. Wash your hands for at least 20 seconds every time. If there are no soap and running water, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with at least 75% alcohol. Sixth, always avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. Seventh, after using face masks or gloves, always throw them away. Put them in bins with covers. Remember also to always use separate plates, drinking glasses, cups, and other eating utensils, towels, bedding, and other items for the family member who is in quarantine. And don't forget to use detergents every time to wash all utensils, bed linen, and clothes used by the person in quarantine. Please remember to use the thermometer, not the back of your hands, to monitor the body temperature of the quarantined family member. Monitor them 2 times every day. Be sure to write down the temperature. If he or she develops a fever or temperature above 37.5 degrees Celsius or 99.5 degrees Fahrenheit, cough or has difficulty breathing, sore throat, body aches and pain, immediately call the COVID-19 hotline by dialing 180 or 181. Protect yourself and others. Play your part in helping to reduce the risk of contracting or spreading COVID-19. This is a message from the Ministry of Public Health in collaboration with PAHO WHO. For more information, kindly visit the Ministry's website www.health.gov.gy or its Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter pages.
Across the region, Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness has announced a state of public emergency in sections of the corporate area, stating that the current state of crime in some police divisions could spiral to chaotic ends. During a press briefing, the Prime Minister said there has been an increase in gang activities in Kingston, as well as extortion in the Market District and the South Coast Highway project. So far this year, the police say there has been an increase of nearly 100% in murders in the Kingston Western Police Division, adding that 22 more persons were murdered up to June 6 when compared with a similar period last year. The latest state of emergency means that the entire capital has been placed under the security measure. Nation News in Barbados is reporting tonight that a 49-year-old Barbadian woman repatriated from a cruise liner on which she worked is the island's latest COVID-19 positive patient. Hers was the only positive test among 174 done yesterday. The woman, who arrived home on a chartered flight last Saturday, was swabbed on arrival at the Grantley Adams International Airport and immediately went into quarantine at the St. Lucie District Hospital. Since the diagnosis, she was transferred to the isolation facility at the Harrison Point in the same parish. She has brought the number of confirmed cases in Barbados to 97 and the number of isolation cases to 7. And finally tonight, international news. America's top court has ruled that employers who fire workers for being gay or transgender are breaking the country's civil rights laws. In a 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court said federal law, which prohibits discrimination based on sex, should be understood to include sexual orientation and gender identity. The ruling is a major win for the LGBT workers and their allies, and it comes even though the court has grown more conservative. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting.